This episode of the One Piece podcast is brought to you by Shonen Jump. Sign up today to be a Shonen Jump member and follow along with us. For less than $2 a month, you can read every chapter of One Piece, plus you get access to the Shonen Jump Digital Vault. That includes nearly every Shonen Jump series published in English. Series like My Hero Academia, One Punch Man, Dr. Stone, Boruto, Dragon Ball Super, Chainsaw Man, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Bleach, Death Note, and much, much more. And that includes the Death Note one-shot that's coming out that our good friend Steven has worked on. So start your free trial today by going to a special page for the One Piece podcast listeners at viz.com/One Piece podcast. And if you're looking to get your friends into One Piece, tell them about Shonen Jump and get them to share this amazing adventure with you. And they can go to viz.com/One Piece podcast as well to get started. Thank you very much.
Well, we have John on right now. Let's
let's do it. All right, so
good segue.
Right. All right, so when did you first get into One Piece?
So I got into One Piece like a really, really long time ago. It started airing in Ireland, I'd say, like early mid 2000s, somewhere around there, and it was the Funimation dub.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
No, that would have been after 2007 because that's when.
So it was the bad dub. It was it was the bad dub with the fucking amazing theme song. And like back then, I wasn't on forums, I wasn't online, I didn't know what One Piece was. Like I knew no one else who liked One Piece, but I started watching it and it was like I thought it looked really stupid at first. I was like, this looks so dumb. But then I think around the name, I'm completely blanking on the name, the arc where Sanji's introduced.
Mm-hmm. Right,
I remember just like they were playing a marathon of that entire arc one Saturday evening, and I was like babysitting my two little cousins, and the three of us just like sat around it and got so into it. And you know when it's that one shot that reveals that Sanji's head chef, like in the flashback, he hasn't been eating and he's all skinny.
Mm-hmm.
We all like looked at each other and were like, "Whoa, oh my god!" And it was a really, really fun memory. And for years then, like I never knew that One Piece was such a big deal until I went to Japan, and it was just everywhere, and that was like kind of a shock. Do you know what I mean? Like I had no idea that this weird little pirate cartoon was like the biggest thing in the world.
What year was that? What year did you go?
Oh, that would have been 2010, 2011, somewhere thereabouts.
Okay, that's definitely I think we could attest. That's when like One Piece got like this huge surge of popularity because that was Strong World around the time that film came out, and that was like really like literally like just like this big well, not really,
Right.
literally a boom, but a big boom in popularity for it. So
Yeah, I
that makes
think,
a lot of sense.
Our friend Greg has told us that like the first big boom in One Piece popularity in Japan was around Baroque works, but the second big boom, and that's sort of where it took it into, dominating the charts every year and stuff like that, was around Strong World, which oddly enough is around the time we started too.
Where was the manga at that point?
Just before the war, Impel Down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember all that stuff. But yeah, it was bizarre because like I remember walking into like a shop and just seeing like One Piece bath salts and just being like, oh, okay, I guess I'm gonna buy some like Blackbeard gravity bath salts. And I did, and it turned the bath in my hotel completely black.
Wow.
The bath salts are one of the even now one of the weirder merchandise tie-ins I've seen. I completely forgot about them. I just remember the Sanji bath salts. Got one of my college friends particularly excited. The cover the package design anyway.
Yeah.
I think that word has a different connotation in America, at least, because when you said bath salts, I was like, oh, wow, they really will sell One Piece with anything, even, crazy drugs for.
Especially the way Alex's friend was
crazy drugs. Me and my partner got super high in our hotel bathroom on Blackbeard bath salts.
Ate a couple people.
Yeah.
You start laughing like him too.
Yeah.
Now, John, have you had the chance to go to Japan to see any of the One Piece merchandise and like its native habitat?
When I was over there was a lot of stuff. I had a friend who went last year, and he went to see the he got to go to like the One Piece World, the theme
Tokyo
park.
Tower, yeah.
Yeah, and that seemed awesome. But when I was over there, it was kind of just like an overload of like just so many figures, and even like the Banpresto prize figures and stuff like that. Like just seeing how available that stuff was like it was incredible. And they had One Piece bread as well. That really stuck with me.
Remember when they had the One Piece toilet paper, like character print toilet paper?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Which character was on it?
It's just a variety of Straw Hat mostly. Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, there's a line.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that to those guys.
I know, right? Now, Alex, do you have any questions for John?
Yeah. So you did mention the Baratier arc, but do you have a favorite story arc in One Piece? I mean, we've all, of course, have seen your amazing One Piece videos on YouTube, but I don't know if since making those videos, any of the recent arcs have caught your have captured your heart a little more.
Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. Honestly, I think if I was to redo those videos now, like I'd probably change a lot. Like, but that kind of happens with any video that like is more than 2 years old, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But as for favorite arcs, I think I'll always love Water 7 and like kind of Water 7, Enos Lobby, like they're kind of the same arc, and I love that block of arcs. I actually really love the Dressrosa arc. It is like really long and there's a lot of padding, but I also think there's like just some of the best character writing in One Piece in there. Like Law's backstory with like Corazon and I think like Doflamingo's backstory was just one of the most horrifying, and just like that made that character for me, because up to that point like I liked him, but I never saw him like intimidating or scary enough to like challenge the Straw Hats in a way, and that just completely made it for me. I actually really liked Whole Cake Islands. I know a lot of people didn't, but I think I just really appreciated like the kind of world of Whole Cake Islands. And I'm not up to date fully with the Wano arc, but that's been pretty interesting so far.
Cool. Yeah. So on this podcast, we tend to sort of shoot the other way, where we're not like super hot on Dressrosa, but we do enjoy Whole Cake Island a lot more. But yeah.
I know like a lot of people aren't hot on Dressrosa, and I sometimes think like I think like the way I consume One Piece is I don't really follow it week to week. I'll just inhale like 80 chapters in 2 days.
That's the way to go about it, honestly. Like,
And I think Dressrosa is probably a lot more enjoyable if you do it that way as opposed to waiting for it week to week. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah. No. As you know, I can speak for the lot of us who have read it week to week, and Steven would translate it week to week. Where in that it gets a little much. It was like 2 years of week to week stuff. So,
It's like the guts on the boat thing.
Yeah.
It's like when I was reading Berserk, and like reading guts on the boat week to week was just like a nightmare. And then when I reread it all together, it was actually fine. Like it was grand.
That's fabulous. So you're a fan of Berserk as well. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any other favorites? Like favorite manga that you are into right now, or like,
I started reading Chainsaw Man recently, which is one of the new Shonen Jump manga, and that's really cool. It's very old school in a lot of ways. Like it kind of ties. It's kind of a sort of it's nearly Devilman like. Like there's a lot of influence there, but it's hard to describe. It's just it's a very kind of cynical, kind of dark manga for Jump, but there's some real heart to it as well. I'm kind of still figuring out my own feelings on it, but I'd totally. Have any of you guys read that?
Not yet.
I have.
It's interesting.
I have yet to read Chainsaw Man. Joey, who's on frequently, he tends to read most of the stuff in Jump, and I think he's said a couple good things about Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, I really like it. It's very different.
Yeah, there's something just kind of fresh about it in a way that I haven't really felt from like Jump in a while. And then other than that, like kind of like Dr. Stone, still like always catching up on Grappler Baki and JoJo and stuff like that.
Did you watch the Netflix Grappler Baki anime?
I dip in and out of it.
Mm.
I thought it was actually a pretty decent adaptation of Baki's style, which I think is a really difficult thing to do because it's such a hideous manga. Even though I think it's kind of beautiful as well. Like I love how it looks, but it looks disgusting.
Mm-hmm. They do a better job of I think the 2000 anime, 2001 anime softened it more, I think. Although if you go back to like the mid 90s OVA, I think that was ugly in a different way. If you've seen that release, that's an interesting one.
Some of the animation from that's beautiful. It's really lovely.
Yeah.
You were asked talking about like favorite arcs and stuff in One Piece. I'd be curious to like, what are some of your guys' favorite One Piece movies?
Ooh,
I have a soft spot for movie 1 actually because of the way the animation looks so good and it feels so much of early One Piece. Like there's so much early One Piece in it. Movie 1 is great, I think. Film Z, all the One Piece films, I think. But Z is.
So let's get like the big three out of the way, which would be, I guess, Film Z, Movie 6, and oh wait, I don't know if there's a third, but it always seems like Movie 6 and Film Z are the most contentious.
Well, Film Z has a specific kind of, I think, people who like it. Like as I think Oda wrote it to make fathers cry. So if you're into the manliness, then yeah, I think you're gonna like that one.
Yeah.
Film Z totally made me cry. I loved that movie.
That's the one that's the one of the I think I hold that one in such high esteem because that's the one One Piece movie to make me cry. I mean, I cry at every fucking movie, but as far as One Piece movie goes, that's the one.
It's the bit where he's like singing the song in front of the giant glacier wall that just destroys me.
It's so good.
Yeah,
I hate to say, but I mean, you're leaving after this after doing the show to go to a screening of One Piece Stampede. So that's a completely different kind of movie. It's a thrill ride. It's not a tearjerker or anything. But
okay, yeah, I kind of felt it might be from the trailer, but honestly, I'm just kind of pumped to get to see One Piece on a big screen. So like, if it's half decent, I'll enjoy it. Have you all seen it?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And did you like it?
Yeah,
I liked it fun.
Yeah,
I don't know. I really liked seeing the Japanese version a lot in the theater, just because this is I do love the dub, but those are the voices that I've heard for the last 20 years or so, and it was really just a different experience hearing them in a theater, that kind of a thing,
Yeah, luckily I'm going to see the sub.
Very cool. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. It's a good looking movie.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
If I could say this without...
sorry, go on.
If I could say this about the movie without spoiling too much, just go in thinking of it as a 20th anniversary party. It's just like a reunion.
Okay.
It's like all the hits, not so much focused on story, but if you just go in with that, you'll have a good time.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I do feel you with the kind of you've been listening to those voices for however many years, because it was the kind of same for me when the Evangelion dub came out on Netflix, and I don't think it's a bad dub, but at this point I might as well walk into my parents' home and they start speaking with different voices. That's how jarring something like that is to me.
I completely get that. As far as Evangelion goes, I never really had an attachment to that dub, but I do I have a very fond. There's a fondness that I've got for 90s anime dubs in general. I don't know what it is, but I think it's just how they're directed, or just the localization choices that are made, I think are really interesting, and they I don't know. There's something about a 90s anime dub. I can't really put my finger on it, but it's sort of like how Washu says, I'm little Washu, as opposed to Washu-chan. It's, I don't know, little choices like that really, to me, make a 90s anime dub, and the two Evangelion dubs are very different, I think.
Yeah. I think with 90s anime, even the process of dubbing anime, it wasn't kind of roadmapped the way it is now. Because now there's a very particular workflow to dub, and a very particular pool of actors and all that kind of stuff. And I think people were still figuring a lot of that stuff out in the 80s and 90s. And while it's rougher, I also think there's nearly more of an experimental edge to it sometimes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, actually, you should check out. I don't know if you got the Lupin the Third: The Mystery of Mamo DVD. It has a dub from the early 80s on it. That was it's sort of fascinating to listen to, because it's almost closer to what the Speed Racer dub would sound like, but done seriously, as opposed to even a dub that was from the mid 90s where they're sort of trying to do it.
Really? I mean? That's super interesting.
Was that the one where they changed all the characters' names?
Yeah,
too?
Dan Dunn and Samurai, and I have the trailers on my Weeb Trailers account. You should check it out.
Yeah, that was good.
All right. Our time here is limited, so I think we should try and get into the manga recap. But is there any sort of last questions you want to ask directly before we move on, guys?
Lightning round.
Yeah.
Favorite Straw Hat?
Zoro.
Nice.
Favorite side character?
Oh, that's such a difficult question.
Not a villain.
Maybe Whitebeard. Maybe Whitebeard.
Yeah.
I could probably think about that for a long time and give a lot of different answers. But yeah, I was, Whitebeard, and the way he came to his end and everything was just I thought that was just incredible. Really, really great.
Favorite One Piece opening?
I know it's kind of blasphemy, but my heart has to go with the original Four Kids opening. It's just people could talk shit about that dub all day, and that's fine and deserved. But that opener is a banger. It's so good.
So back when the Four Kids dub was coming out, it was reviled, of course, but
yeah.
But way back then, our very own Greg, he put this into perspective for me, and I think it's something that I've taken away ever since when it comes to any sort of adaptation, is that, we still have the original, and also this will get people to seek out the original. So this is only good stuff.
Yeah. It's funny because even back then, again, I had no concept that this was a really reviled dub, so I just enjoyed it week to week. Yeah. But I remember when Crocodile came into it, whenever he'd use his power on anyone, they wouldn't be like, "Oh, I'm dry," like, you know, they wouldn't be like losing all the moisture from their body. They'd just start going, "I'm so thirsty," and that was it.
Wow.
It's good stuff.
And luckily they were all sent to the hospital. They were fine. Nobody dies.
Oh yeah, Sanji had his lollipop. It was all good.
It's miraculous that dub even existed. Just now that at least we could look back now that we could enjoy seeing the latest One Piece film in theaters.
You see, this is the thing. Like, this is why I'll never hate that dub, because it's like this One Piece aired on Irish television. Like, that was crazy, you know? Like, we had Pokemon, we had Yu-Gi-Oh, but the idea that One Piece actually made it over here was insane, and was like a big part of like me kind of getting more and more into like anime and stuff, because I think that was the show that I watched like after Dragon Ball Z, after Yu Yu Hakusho. It was the one I started getting into then, and that, like, you know, I always kind of appreciate that dub for that reason. Before we do the chapter recap, I'm just curious, like, how in general, how are you guys feeling about the Wano arc so far?
Ed,
Oh,
why don't you start?
sure. Man, I've really been enjoying it, but it's sort of like this thing that Oda's been building up for a very long time. Although I do kind of find it funny that like Wano is the Mary Sue of countries. It's the best country. It's the most important country. It's where all the most important things happen. And of course, it's the Japan country because, you know, Oda's Japanese.
Oh yeah.
But but on the other hand, it's like everything that we're getting so much into the end game of One Piece that like all the secrets are being revealed, and we're getting to see all these characters. And Luffy's like reaching this peak of his strength here. Like he was training in the quarry, and now he can basically wreck people like Kenshiro, and like, as we did the episode image a few weeks back. And yeah, I've really been enjoying it. But I'm also sort of a nerd for that old Japan culture stuff myself. So that's like it's stuff I already like, and then it's One Piece too. So it's just like a combination of things that I already really enjoy.
Yeah.
I'll echo Ed's. Oh yeah, I'll echo Ed's point of view on that too. I'm loving it for the exact same reasons. I really am enjoying the fact that it feels like a whole new manga in Wano for the most part. Like at the very least, when it started off, it seemed like a whole new manga, but we're sort of starting to. I don't know, with the recent flashback, it definitely it feels like One Piece. So no, I've been loving it. I can't wait to see it wrap up. I think the pacing has been quite good too. So.
I'll say, I think for us, you know, we've been, you know, analyzing every chapter of One Piece for the last 10 years. I'm more adjusted now to Oda's style of storytelling as opposed to like how it used to be around like Enies Lobby. And so like, I noticed now I'm like, no, he doesn't devote an entire chapter to a fight between two characters. Kind of now action's kind of taking more of a backseat and storytelling, but so I am enjoying it. I could tell he's putting so much love and care into the design of Wano. It definitely, I think one criticism I'll give of Oda, which he's had forever, is just cramming so much into one thing.
Do you see the billions of text on last week's chapter? That was yeah.
I'm trying to read like other manga. And I think Oda is also just like screwed up the way I digest manga now. If I'm trying to read Hunter x Hunter, and I'm like, how come these new characters don't have boxes that tell me what their names are? I'm like, what's going? It's like I can't keep track of these people. Yeah, and then I'm on this show every week memorizing all these characters with long ass Japanese names.
Where are you in Hunter x Hunter, out of curiosity?
Volume. Let me check. I have it around somewhere.
What's like the last big thing to happen in the story?
Oh, it's the auction arc. So I think I'm at volume 12. Yeah.
Oh, there's some stuff coming.
Okay, because to be honest, like I didn't want to like be negative on Twitter. I'm like, hey, when does this get really good?
So
I know I've heard the Chimera Ant arc.
You're reading the manga.
Yes, I decided to be bold and give the manga a shot.
That is a bold choice, and I would nearly say now is a really good time to switch to the anime.
You think so?
Yeah, like I think sorry, 2 seconds.
I just thought I'd be cool and hip and original and read the manga because everyone watches the anime, and I have I think I have more time on my hands to read a manga than I do watch an anime these days.
See, Togashi, like I love Togashi, and I think he is an incredible illustrator when he gives it the time and really puts his back into it. But I think by the middle of Hunter x Hunter, those days are really gone. Like you can feel him struggle to get those volumes out. And what I really love about the anime of Hunter x Hunter is it's like this absolutely amazing adaptation of his artwork. And so it kind of covers up some of the weaknesses kind of in his stuff. And like, I can't fault him for the weaknesses because, you know, he has a lot of health problems. He has some what seem like kind of, you know, struggles with depression and stuff. And so I think he should be making the manga the exact way he wants to make it. But man, the anime is just, it's such a great anime. Like if you're enjoying the manga, go for it. But I think if you want to see like the true strength of that story, the anime is the best way to consume it.
Nice to hear. I think I'm almost ready to start reaching out to some friends and be like, hey, so Hunter x Hunter, is it gonna get really good soon?
My answer to you would actually be like yes right now, but also like it maybe there is a chance that you might just not be enjoying it, but you're entering one of my favorite arcs.
I want to get through this Chimera Ant arc. It's like the Water 7 of Hunter x Hunter apparently.
The Chimera Ant arc is just, it's so long and it's so grim and it's amazing. But yeah, I would definitely not, if you're not feeling it before the Chimera Ant arc, I don't think the Chimera Ant arc will actually change your mind, because at that point I think it's nearly your investment in the series that it's playing on, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I got you. All right. No, I appreciate that. Let's see what happens. Yeah, but One Piece.
Right.
One Piece.
Sorry. Let's talk about the manga. Let's get into the manga recap.
Sure.
Okay. This is the manga recap for chapter 970, Odin vs. Kaido. But first, it's Gang Bedge's Oh My Family, Volume 19. Bedge and Vito are immobilized. So this sort of explains the last chapter where Vito has to be the one to chase after Chiffon, and we find out why Bedge and Vito couldn't do anything here.
You mean Gotti?
Oh, Gotti, right. Gotti. Vito is being manhandled by the dud.
And that's saying something with the size of his hands.
Those glasses.
Wait a minute. Grandpa, is this a kissing book?
Only people over the age of 30.
Oh no! I mean, hopefully not. I mean, watch Princess Bride, kids. It's a good movie.
Anyone
say a lot of things people don't get.
Yeah. Any comments on the cover page? Anybody?
I will say I appreciate that he did a like kissy gag with people where they're just like normal people and they're not like weird, gross monster people that they're freaking out about. Like these are just like normal folks that are smooching on these guys.
This is just funny. How they attack. This is just
yes.
This is what happens when you visit Europe for the first time.
One thing I'd like to add, because I don't think there's really much to talk about in this cover story. I don't know if this is something Oda's been doing a lot more recently, but just the guy that's kissing Vito, I really like that Oda just colored in his left leg entirely black just to show a little more depth. It's a really cool technique.
Yeah, that's lovely. I really like it when people do that.
Or I could be mistaken, and he could just be wearing like a Harvey Dent Two-Face suit. I'm gonna guess.
Let's go with your version.
Also, I'm not sure if I'm wrong here, but it kind of looks like Bedge is wearing Crocs.
Oh.
Ooh.
Well, Sanji's worn Crocs before, so yeah. Crocs are cool.
Oh, I forgot. My mistake.
Thank you, Maddie.
Beige is wearing Gucci Crocs.
Well, yeah, it kind of looks like, I don't know, it could be like scales or something, or jewels.
Or is he wearing Banana Gator shoes?
Maybe. All right, let's move on to the first page then. So, first page, there we go. All right, so we are back in the flower capital. We get a montage of shamisen playing geishas, and from a babang to a da-dong, as the Akazaya 9 storm sort of into the capital, being led by Odin, and the family is sort of, they're having a normal day. Toki is doing
Hiyori.
Hiyori's hair, and Momonosuke is reading a book of swordsmanship, and on the other hand, Yasu and his fire-maned horse are running, or sort of rushing towards something. This is a hectic montage we got going on here. We get a view of the castle from one angle and then from straight on. It's interesting to see that angle from the side. Like, people are rushing in from one side and other people are rushing in, to take the castle head on.
Actually, I think the second one, is that Kuri Castle? Is that the one that's on top of the bridge?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, you were messing me up there for a moment, Ed.
It is
I think
very
even
confusing.
when I read this chapter this morning, I was kind of confused.
Oh, that's right, because the one doesn't have the branch over the top of it, because it's on the tree. I see. Okay. But Odin, he stopped in his tracks. His eyes are wide. He says, "This is not what I expected. Why are you so thoroughly prepared? How did you know? I was on my way to cut off your head as you sat on that empty island drinking yourself to sleep." And Kaido, in full dragon form, says, "Perhaps I have a spy in your castle. I just had my mansion built. I'd rather not have it used as a battleground. So I came out to meet you instead." And he's this really caught Odin off guard.
I like to, this is a very minor thing, but in that very first panel, that even 20 something years ago, you can see the old, the head geisha, the instructor who had been teaching Robin and doing her AC/DC shamisen playing, that she's in that picture too.
She was still very old 22 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
She aged gracefully in the last 20 years.
This is one of those spreads where I really appreciate how much time and energy Oda puts into establishing an atmosphere, where we're not just hopping straight into the plot. It is just kind of building the tension of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he doesn't even show you what this showdown. It's just the close up on Oden and then Kaido until you turn the page and you finally see what this whole scene is. Which I think Alex.
Yeah, Alex, that's yours.
Okay. So Odin shouts, "Then it was all a lie, wasn't it, Kaido?" And then we see the real scope of the battlefield here, with Kaido on his factory side of Udon with his 1,000+ warriors. This is a really cool shot that we see from the perspective of the Akazaya samurai. And Kaido says, "That's right, Worororo. All lies. I sense that we were at a disadvantage then. After your return, if you had joined forces with Hyogoro, we would have had to deal with the samurai and Yakuza of Wano together. If we had fewer numbers then," he says, "it would have been a difficult battle, especially if you lived up to your fearsome reputation as a madman who would not blink at any sacrifice." And we have a bunch of really cool panels here of varying panels of Kaido and his dragon form. This one in the middle, I think, is particularly cool, where we see the camera is basically in his coils. "Instead, you chose a method that would not hurt anyone. You, Gate, and Roger would like that too. Mighty pirates, but soft in their way. And you are one of them, the fool who chose to dance. Stripped to your loincloth, mocked by all. You have none of the old Kozuki dignity." And we have a really cool worm's eye panel there of Denjiro and Kinemon. And so the silhouette of Kaido laughing.
That's my favorite, actually. That's my favorite Kaido from this page. Full
It's
black,
a really,
darkness.
Yeah. Odin says, "I stand by my decision that day. Let us speak of the future now." And yeah, that's this is a great technique if you have a lot of, we have one character who has a lot to say. Different angles. That's
Yeah, it's
I was thinking.
Go ahead, Steve.
I was thinking it reminded me so much of Shenlong or Shenron from Dragon Ball, but not so much of like the actual canon. Alex could probably attest to this, and probably even Ed. Like I think, especially in
You mean Movie Dragon?
Movie Dragon.
Like when I feel like he's more sassy when he shows up in the movies.
yeah.
Well, in like Dead Zone, he's like coiling all around like the architecture and stuff. When like in the manga and the anime.
That's such a beautiful film, Dead Zone.
Or I think with movie in Tree of Might, when the forest is destroyed and he comes at that point, like you see the entirety of him, like because the forest is destroyed, so you can't see anything but the dragon and like the ruined forest. In movie 3, that's very good.
As opposed to something like after the fight with Cell, he's just like vertically above Kami's lookout. He's like, hey, I'm a big dragon. I wouldn't be surprised if that had any influence on Oda here, but. That's what it reminded me of.
I think that like one panel in the middle of the second page where it's coming, you're looking out through his coils. It kind of just puts over how like gigantic and terrifying he is.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah.
Steve, next one's yours.
Yeah. So we get a bunch of the Animal Kingdom pirates ready to attack. Rah. I forget all the different like subsects of these guys, because we have like the pleasures and the rest. Gifters. Okay. Who knows if that was even a thing at this time? Because I don't know if this. I don't think the smile fruits were a thing yet. But yeah, they all they charge. We get a nice close up of Odin as he charges forward and gives 2 big slashes with his 2 swords. We get that cool little crackling black effect that he uses. That
usually means a character has Conqueror's Haki, right? Something like
that. That's what I was wondering. I'm not gonna assume anything, but that's definitely what it reminded me of.
That was always my take on it, but I don't know. Maybe it's just
Well, he seems like the kind of character who would have it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a letter D in his name too at this point. And then the rest of the Akazaya 9 charge in as Kinemon yells, "Follow Lord Odin into battle!" And they yada gya as they charge forth. And then we see some of the schmucks here, and it's like, wait a second. This is what samurai are like. They're so hardcore. They're tough. I guess it's like, don't fall back. So we have more than they do. And we got some close-ups of the Akazaya 9 attacking, of course. Cat Viper, Denjiro, that other guy. So why am I forgetting his name? Kinemon. Not
Kanjuro?
Kanjuro.
Yeah.
Kanjuro. All your favorites are here. But yeah, we just get some close-ups, and we just like a little bit of effects of them obviously swinging their katana around and cutting some of these guys down. And we ended on close-up of Odin.
And John, your turn.
Oh, sorry. Oh, God damn it. Okay, so we have like kind of little establishing shot of the castle. Lord Yasui, I don't know how to pronounce that at all. I'm sorry.
Pretty close, yeah.
That's good enough. Yeah.
And then we have a little shot in the room. Odin sent a messenger to me by horse. He said that his wife and children would be in danger, and he asked me to see. And he asked me to see to you. So Lord Momonosuke is already 8. Otaki, we must be prepared for the worst. If Odin loses this battle, and then we have a very imposing shot of this gate, which is just really, really cool, then this country is lost.
So are they in Odin's castle or Yasu's castle here?
Yeah, I may have been wrong about Kuri at the beginning of the chapter on the bridge. That may have been like Ringo, or because that was snowy.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't make sense that this was Yasuie's home because we saw him rushing over to them. So I think this is Kuri.
Right. This is Oden Castle. Okay.
Yeah.
And interesting that is that Otoko, the Yasu's daughter, right there. Wait, no, that's not right.
No, that's Hiyori.
That's Hiyori. Never mind.
She's giving her big brother Momonosuke the flying kick.
The Rainmaker drop kick.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And so then we get on the next page, and Oda does this thing that I really like sometimes, where he'll put like a vertical line down a panel to indicate like a cut to a different scene, or like a little bit of time has passed or something, and we get the feet running towards. I think those are Odin's feet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Two sword style, yeah.
Yeah, and then we get a little panel of crosshairs on Odin and this bad dude being like, ha ha. But then he's like, because he gets knocked back by the samurai, it looks like.
It's a little
the
little knife.
What are those kunai? What are those called again?
Oh yeah. I can see the little kunai.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, who did that? And then this lady appears whose name escapes me. I hope you don't mind. I'm joining your side. You may not remember me, but I served back in the days of Shogun Tsukiki.
That's Shinobu. She's very mature these days, but yeah, not back then. But this is so suspicious, though. Like Oda's must be deliberately writing her to be extremely suspicious. Like,
yeah.
Like,
oh my God, Ed! Now you messed with my head now, because remember how she was so like accusatory of Beppo and Penguin and Shachi when they got captured? Like, oh, they're gonna spill the beans of our plan. All that. What if it was just a clever little ruse by Trader Shinobu?
Yeah, Shinobu is, I think, the only one who knows what happened in Orochi's throne room, right? Because she was in the ceiling, watching her deal or his deal with Odin. Last chapter.
Yeah. Yep.
When you guys asked me who my favorite side character was earlier, I completely forgot Beppo was a thing. I absolutely love Beppo. Like any page with Beppo on it, I'm just like, yeah, there he is.
All right. I got the next one. Okay. So Odin recognizes her. Is that Shinobu? And he remembers her as a very little girl. And but as David Bednar pointed out in our group chat, it said that this panel here is very Harley Quinn with the twin tails as well.
Yeah.
So, but she says, yes, it is me. I served at the castle, believing that the Kozuki would rule once again. But Fukurokuju and the Kozuki Ninja Legion chose to switch allegiance to Orochi in the end. I dreamed of one day serving you as shogun, so I can no longer stay in the palace. And Odin actually retorts with, I do not blame anyone who would lose faith in a fool of a lord. So what I guess Shinobu makes a sort of pained face at that declaration. And
Steven, really quick question for Steven. The Ninja Legion, is that the only Wabanshu, or is this different?
Well, I suppose that you could say maybe like Orochi. Well, I don't remember if they used that term with the Kozuki clan before, like the Kozuki Oniwa Banshu, or if this was just like Oda using some a synonym for that. But I suppose it's possible that Orochi might have like established that particular name for them. We knew this before, that all the ninjas that we had seen served the Kozuki shogun, and that they had eventually turned over to work with Orochi instead.
Mm-hmm. So we get a quick shot of Dogstorm and Kawamatsu sort of showing off their skills, and Raizo retorts to Shinobu, says, "We walk the path of thorns, Shinobu," and but still she says, "I will join you," and the battle sort of rages on as Kaido circles around in the sky, obscured in shadow, which is a very cool look, I think. So you get Oda box, or narrator box at least. On one side, 11 samurai ventured into battle. On the other, 1,000 pirates. but the battle lasted longer than expected, as Kozuki Odin's strength surpassed the enemy's imagination. So we see like Kaido breathing his dragon fire, and Raizo is like he's running for his life. It looks like, is that King?
I think that's Queen and King
Queen
at
and
the
King.
top.
Yeah. Be careful. Some of them are very dangerous. We get the silhouetted Queen and then King with the wings there. Odin, he's sent flying into something. He's sent flying basically, and he emerges from the rubble. He says, "The only thing I want to cut is your scaly neck." And he comes up with an Odin two-sword style as Kaido opens his mouth, presumably to send a blast again. We go to the next page.
And here we have the definitive 2-page spread of Odin unleashing the attack that wounded Kaido, the Paradise Totsuka. And that is unfortunately, it's another case where it's referring to a very specific thing that I don't really have the ability to address in the manga itself. But the Paradise is part of his line of attacks. It was Paradise Waterfall or something like that he used against the boar that was attacking the city. And Totsuka is a term for it literally means 10 hand lengths, but it is the term that is used. It's like a category or a descriptor for any kind of legendary sword that appears in like Japanese myths, where like whenever there's a hero or whenever there's a grand sword of some kind, it is referred to as a Totsuka sword. And most meaningful of those would be Susanoo, the hero Susanoo's sword, which was used to slay the 9-headed dragon or 8-headed dragon Orochi in Japanese myth. So very clearly very intentional use referring to that by Oda.
I just thought Odin was flexing that he knew Roman numerals, but
nope. No, he's but yeah, he leaves the giant X scar on Kaido, and he's Kaido's clearly really taken out by this, whereas his eyes are all white, and the followers are stunned that their invincible leader has taken a major blow like this, and he groans and then crashes into the forest. I love that, just the force of him falling.
There's so much impact to that panel, despite the fact it's such a small panel.
Yeah, it's the great use of the little splash shock effects, and Odin is then rushing up on him to deliver the killing blow, or at least the vanquishing blow, because he says, "Never come back to Wano." And then someone yells, "Stop right there, Odin." And he hears a familiar voice who says, "Help, father."
And that familiar voice, none other than Momonosuke, who is being held captive by an arm and a knife by one of the Animal Kingdom pirates. This stops Odin dead in his tracks. But right before, with a gonk, he gets walloped right on the head by... it's not a mace, just like, was it an iron club, right, Stephen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The iron clubs you see a lot of the Oni carrying in a lot of those old Japanese prints.
Yep, exactly.
Or even in
and we all know how much these hurt, because we saw Luffy getting taken out with one hit of these in modern day. But right on the back of the head.
Do you see the blood spray? How the blood spray is in the middle panel, and then it's also in the reaction. Like,
oh my God!
Curved up.
Yeah,
so good, very good.
Oh God, that's brilliant eye direction there on Oda's part. On Oda's, Odin hits the ground, tries to pick himself back up, blood dripping from the back of his head, across his face. His eyes are all white, intense. But then, like, little Momonosuke here, this little bastard, he laughs, but like at a click, it turns back into old lady. Oh, what's her name?
Higurashi, I think.
Higurashi, and it's like Kyo Kyo as we get revealed. It's it's old Aunt Clay, of course, and she laughs some more. I think Odin hits the ground with a thud. He's passed out, and Kaido's just looking down on him like this is like a look of holy shit, I almost ate it right here.
He's got blood in his face. His hair is out of place. Yeah,
his eyes are bugging out. Kinemon yells out to Odin. Same with oh god, I'm pulling a jammer here. I'm sorry. And he gets stabbed in the back by King. Because King has that spiky helmet. I almost thought it was Pika for a moment. As the blood drips from that sword, some time passes and we get some narration here. The fighting was so fierce that the fires that burned Udon's thick forest did not abate until the rains arrived a full 5 days later. As we see like a wide shot, and we just see all these just nothing. We're talking about Tree of Might from DBZ earlier. This is exactly what that movie looks like in the start.
Yeah.
The daimyo of Kuri, Odin, and his 9 followers were all imprisoned in the flower capital, and we see a very familiar prison here. If you remember, Yasue and some of the others were trapped in here. And to await the punishment for the crime of rebellion against the shogun. Unaware of the reason behind this act, the populace's reaction was cold, and we hear some of the townies, and it's like, what a disappointment he was. Someone's like, a little late for like a rebellion, don't you think? There's no sympathy towards the dancing naked daimyo that is Kuri. No, it's Kuri. I'm sorry, Odin. So many Japanese things to memorize.
So the rabble continues. Does this mean we don't get to see his naked dance every week? That's the only downside of this. Hey, this is serious. As we see Shinobu becloaked walking through the town, we have a little flashback of when Odin and his crew are captured after the battle. I don't know her. She is no vassal of mine. You are after my life, then? Who are you? Begone, Kunoichi, effectively saving her life, providing she's not the traitor. I mean, it's too... honestly, that's something that's too early to call at this point, but we will continue. The sentence for the samurai has been decided. Murmur, murmur, murmur. This guy says...
Extra.
Odin to be boiled. So, we have at the exact same time as all of this that is happening. Momonosuke and Hiyori are with Otoki, and Momonosuke says, "Mother, when is father coming home?" And Hiyori says, "Oh, I have folded a paper balloon for him." And Toki says, "Oh, that's lovely. Won't it be nice when he returns?" And Tsuru, of course, is wistfully making a paper crane, so we know it's Tsuru.
Well, I'm known for making like a paper Steve every now and then. So
Paper Steve. And Yasuye is sitting there in the rain as all this is happening. And we have a shot of every member of the Akazaya 9 here. It says... In the public square 3 days hence, the 10 wicked samurai are sentenced to be boiled to death. And I like that we have some sakura petals sort of coming into the foreground on this this final panel of Odin here in the cell. And with a bang, we're done.
Yep. All right. So overall thoughts on the chapter. Why don't we start with you, Stephen?
With me, I kind of have mixed feelings about this chapter, and I guess I'll start with the bad side, which is that it was kind of hard to tell. So we left off in the previous chapter with that incredible narration that was like, oh, it's going to be the the hour of legends, like don't even blink lest you miss any moment of what is about to unfold. And I couldn't really honestly tell if that was intended to be referring to like what happened in the first half of this chapter, or if it is supposed to be about what happens when the execution happens, because obviously we know there's more stuff to happen, because clearly the 10 wicked samurai are not all executed. In fact, like pretty much all the rest of them are going to escape somehow. So there's going to be a big to-do in the moments to come. And it didn't really seem like, especially as a group endeavor, you get a couple action shots of the various members of Oden's retinue, but it's not really like check out all of the legendary stuff that's going on here. It kind of felt like, okay, it's here's a battle, and then you get the big finisher with Oden inflicting damage on Kaido before the betrayal. And I can't tell if it was supposed to be, if this was the hour of legends or whatever. I guess I'm a little bit underwhelmed with the way that he depicted it. Not that it's like bad, but it just felt like such a huge buildup. And if it wasn't, then it felt like he didn't really telegraph that very well. And it feels like I'm not really sure what to make of the way that he transitioned through this sequence of scenes. But having said that, like I do think the action is cool to see. I find that I think like you, Alex, I'm not really sure what to make of Shinobu. If it's like maybe she was a traitor, and then having been saved, or at least having been welcomed by them, she realizes what is really going on and is changing her mind or something. Like there's clearly more to this picture, and we still haven't seen the truth of whatever the deal was between Oden and Orochi, which is probably, I would guess, probably Oden is going to say it in public, like when, the same way that Yasuie gave his big message when he was being executed in the present day, that there will be some big dramatic, scene in front of the entire nation. I'm very curious about that. And it was very gratifying to me to know. I mean, it wasn't necessarily the most shocking development or the hardest to guess, but I was reminded of all the way back in Zou, when we first get like that very first reminiscence about Oden, where they're remembering him saying that his line, "I was meant to boil," and Momonosuke and Kinemon are both crying. And I remember that there was like some confusion because of the scanlations like weren't as clear about what who was saying it and what was being implied. And I was pretty sure at the time that like, oh, this is because he is named after this hot pot stew kind of dish, that he was probably executed by boiling. And I kind of set up the translation there in a way that would that would work with that. And so I think it was very gratifying to see, whatever 150 or 60 chapters later, that it's actually lining up that way, because you never know with Oda. He can find lots of ways to trick you.
I think the boiling stuff's kind of interesting, because I think that's a reference to the old Ninja Goemon.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yes, I'm glad you brought that up.
I'm gonna drop a link in the chat, but like even if you just look at like the classic depiction of Goemon, is that link gonna work? Yeah, it should do. It's like you can see it's the same kind of face that Oda uses, so
yeah,
that just looked at me there.
Yes, Goemon was a kind of legendary thief character who was. He was a real person, but he attempted to assassinate Hideyoshi, the shogun, who is notably, I don't know if anyone remembers the little like history lesson thing that I did several episodes ago, but Hideyoshi was the one of the three kind of rulers during the Warring States period who rose up from supposedly common. Like he started as a servant and basically through kind of cunning and through ambition and so on managed to find himself in control of most of Japan.
Like also, but he ended up losing the war to Tokugawa in the end, right?
In the end, yes. He was vanquished, but it was very interesting to see, like, okay, so Oda's kind of extending that the connection of or the use of Orochi as a kind of similar to a Hideyoshi type figure.
All right, Alex.
Guys, sorry, I have got to get to the cinema. But
bummer.
Apologies. But listen, I just want to thank you guys for having me on. This was like super, super fun, and it was really cool to be like part of one of the chapter recaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we love having you on, and our door's always open. So.
Okay, cool. I'll keep that in mind. Guys, enjoy the rest of the podcast, and I'll see you soon. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Enjoy the movie.
Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, John.
Take care.
All right. Well, thank you to John for coming on. But Alex, what are your thoughts overall in the chapter?
Yeah. Steven brought up a good point about the don't blink. At the end of the last chapter. But maybe, I don't know, that it kind of reads to me like stay tuned, readers. It's very Stan Lee, usually whatever follows that isn't, all that in a bag of potato chips.
Maybe that would explain like Shinobu's dialogue in this, because I felt like she was like, yes, it's me, Shinobu. I served the previous shogun a long time ago. I am a ninja. I also like this and that. And it's like, okay, we don't need to, know everything about you. You can fight.
I don't know. I mean, in this arc, can you blame him for writing like that?
Yeah.
Got to remind the audience.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah, I don't know. Like I liked it. I liked it fine. The panel where Odin gets Kaido is really cool. I think there seems to be a lot of really weird and interesting misdirection in this chapter. Not just the Shinobu stuff, but Toki is drawn with a really interesting facial expression when Yasuie comes to see her. She doesn't look really worried at all.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. I want to know more about Toki. And what her deal is, because she seems to be like a transformer more than meets the eye.
Yeah.
She seems.
You're saying she turns into like a Camaro?
Yes. No, I think I do wonder, maybe she's composed so as to not get the kids worried. But I don't know. I think it also helps that she's in that same spread where Shinobu shows up, and I'm like, oh man, I don't know who the spy could be. If the spy is Toki, I'm not sure how much sense that would make, but it would also be a weird curveball to throw.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I don't like that either. But I don't know. Anyway, it was fun. I liked it. I guess I don't really have anything real to say, except for I thought it was cool that we got to see why Udon is as desolate as it is.
Yeah.
Thinking on it, that entire plains area, that could have been the battleground, right? For this whole chapter. So, yeah. That's it for me.
Looking like Fern Gully there at the
end. Steve.
Oh, also, I wanted to say earlier when you said gifters, I thought you said regifters.
Those are true villains.
The real scumbags.
Anyway. All right, Steve, your thoughts?
Just general. This chapter really didn't hit me as hard as last week's. I think. Yeah, maybe it a little bit of disappointment with just like the way the last chapter ended, with practically like a stay tuned for the next episode of Dragon Ball Z like level of hype for this fight. And this flashback is already going on long enough. Like I think we talked about when we were talking with EyePatchWolf earlier. It's like I'm familiar with Oda's storytelling. He's not going to devote a single chapter to like a single fight anymore. So I wasn't expecting that, but it felt kind of like your run of the mill one large mass of bodies run towards another mass of bodies. Think like every Marvel movie these days, or every Avengers movie. So like, yeah, this Hour of Legends.
Maybe
not,
that's
not the
next chapter.
Possibly, yeah. Well, no, it said like it's this is what his execution is like days after. Yeah, 3 days after this fight. But I don't know, I'm not going to complain too much that the fight choreography wasn't up to my standard. It was fine, but it still felt like, wow, this is, this still feels like we're cramming so much in here. The Yasue stuff is interesting, especially with you guys talking about Hiyori. No, Toko. No, Toki. Right? Jesus. Mm-hmm. Why am I so bad with names lately? Yeah, it is very mysterious. I don't want to look too far into it because I don't want to start. I don't want to get caught up in the whole pudding thing again when we had so many theories and it was more or less pretty straightforward. I look at this panel of Toki when Yasue is talking, just seeing it more. It's like, I'm pretty sure maybe she's just confident in her husband. But who knows? Surprise me, Oda. I will say, I think, I kind of popped huge for the strike on Kaido that Odin delivered. I thought that was that was like a big that was a boy of the chapter for sure. I actually enjoyed that. Though one thing I just find really confusing about Kaido's part in this flashback is just how he's just dropped in there. I'm curious if we're going to find out just more about Kaido's origin later in this arc when Luffy fights him, because it just really feels like he was just dropped in here. And like, oh yeah, now Kaido's in this country. And if you're thinking within, like within a vacuum of this flashback, like who is Kaido? Like we don't know. Like we only go off of like the knowledge that we've already been introduced to Kaido in the present.
Like he's a guy who was in the Rocks Pirates and then he became an emperor. That's what we know.
Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if we're gonna get a little more development further on of Kaido in this arc, because as of now, Orochi, Kaido was such like the main focus early on in this arc, now it's like this flashback has made Orochi the main antagonist, so a lot of the focus is on him.
I think going back to Yasu's execution, he's been on par as being
and the thing like that Steve was saying too is like I'm still kind of waiting to reconcile like the Kaido that we've seen, like fucking Jason Momoa turning into a dragon monster guy with the original description of him as like the guy who's been captured and attempted to execute, 50 times or whatever. Like he isn't actually some completely unstoppable, undefeatable guy. Like he's been, beaten in battle a bunch of times. Maybe that was when he was younger, but like, it just, it feels like there's something missing that we haven't quite seen yet. And I am curious to see like how those things will come together, because it feels like there's like two different images that Oda has created.
Yeah. Steven, how many years ago is this the current time of this flashback? How far away are we from?
Well, this should be 20 years, right? Because he's about to get executed, and so presumably that's when everyone is going to get teleported forward.
We saw him reacting to Roger's death last chapter, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
20 years is a long time. I wouldn't be surprised if it's something like this was the closest Kaido has ever come to death, and nothing since. And he's just like he's looking for his Odin. He's looking. He's
This was his autoerotic asphyxiation.
hurt me more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just single Kaido looking for his Odin.
He's like the cyborg ninja.
Yeah, exactly. He starts talking about like the last time they fought in Zanzibar, and Luffy's like, "What are you talking about?"
He puts out a like a personals ad. Single blue dragon searching for two sword style.
Zoro's looking at the paper like, "That's not me, man. I do three. I'm out." But yeah, I think I still need to like reserve the rest of my comments till we get another chapter in. But my prediction, flashback is going to end in a chapter and a half, 1 chapter and a half. I'll say.
All right. So my overall thoughts are that, like, I don't know if like I'm not feeling this or if it was just it's a sad march to his death. Like, there's no curious, like there couldn't be any other ending to this. So it's like he's just going off. He's never coming back. Like there's that, and also but I do like the way like the Kaido fight goes with Odin, because like using the face powers and using Momonosuke, I think that was really good. That was actually really heart wrenching. And Kaido is just sort of this. I'm still not sure about like who betrayed Odin, because like Shinobu, we're supposed to be suspicious of her, obviously. Like there's no otherwise he wouldn't write her this way if we weren't supposed to be suspicious. So I'm not sure where that's going, but like there's still so many mysteries, and like hardly anything was revealed. We didn't really find out why he chose to dance in the nude, because like I guess Kaido was threatening to hurt people. Like that's pretty much, like they don't even say that, but that's heavily implied. So I guess it wasn't even that important what he was blackmailing him with. I guess it was, maybe it's a thing that would be more obvious if I was Japanese. I don't know. Yeah. But I really like his sort of attack style, the way Kaido is hurt and the way he reacts to it, I think is very interesting. So like this is like the one scar, the big scar that he has on his side, and I'm curious as to like who is going to fight who at the end. Who's going to fight Orochi? Who's going to fight Kaido? So I'd like to see that. But I think next week is going to be sort of a. It is next week, right, Steven?
2 weeks.
Damn it. Okay.
Yeah, we didn't mention that. Next chapter, February 16th. Yeah, so I haven't seen the next chapter either. So that's why that's why I was going so heavily into like. I really don't know if like that was supposed to be the Hour of Legends. If I knew that there was going to be some other crazy sequence of events next time.
That's sort of what I think, because like this Toki thing, that's the most interesting thing for the overall plot of One Piece, I think. Like outside of Wano, her powers are fascinating, and where does she come from, and why is she doing this? So that I feel like is going to be very interesting. And
she's got to have a moment when she does her. That
little guy is just standing there. He hasn't done anything yet, and he's going to do something good. Anyway,
I do agree with something that you said, Ed. That I really liked the use of the clone fruit powers to make her look like Momonosuke. I actually saw some people. I usually don't. Just talk about random, internet reactions. But some people were like really disappointed. Like, man, how could he not know that was like the old lady in disguise? You already knew that she had the powers from the throne room scene. And it's like, no, it was years ago. But also like more importantly, like this, if there was one way that was guaranteed to get Oden's reaction, it's, his own son, his firstborn son. Like, of course, he's going to do a double take for like the one, fatal split second that is all that Kaido needs to knock him out. Of course, he's going to react that way. He's he's a father. So I thought that was a very effective.
It wasn't even like it paralyzed him. It was a second of hesitation. That's all you need. That's all Kaido needed.
Exactly.
But that's sort of where I'll leave it for this week. And I don't know. Maybe next week we'll do Magazine Volume 8. I'm not sure.
We'll come up with something.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else final thoughts before we move on to piece together and some discussion about the live action?
Excelsior.
Okay. This is the Piece Together segment where we take your questions, your comments, your theories, and put them in a personals ad and look for someone to come get you with a sword. I don't know. So before we
write
take
them down on a piece of paper and then turn that paper into a paper Steve.
All right, so
You guys are really putting over Paper Steve.
I love it.
Like Paper Mario, your video game hero.
Oh my God! Now I'm on board. Now I'm on board.
All right, but before we take your questions, we actually we wanted to discuss this at the top of the show, but John was limited on time, so we kind of pushed it out here. But One Piece live action got formally announced it's going to be on Netflix. So I guess coming 2021? Did they say?
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think. So.
That's the listing on Netflix currently. That's probably subject to change.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, sure.
So, I don't know. I'm excited. Like, I wasn't sure. Like, they announced it 2 years ago, and they were just working on it. It was just in development. So now it's real, and it's going to happen, and now a lot of people are going to watch it.
Yeah.
Like, how many people watched this Witcher show that came out like this year? Like a lot of people.
I watched it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I haven't watched it. I haven't played any of the games, but I've been considering it.
I think Witcher has kind of filled the void for people who are really disappointed with Game of Thrones. And that it's a very similar kind of world in terms of aesthetics. But it leans a little heavier into the magic and creatures aspect of it, which, I mean, I think is even better. Yeah. But yeah, I thought Witcher was very good. And I don't know, watching that gave me hope for this.
Right. And for people, I don't know, I saw something going around talking about the budget being like, the budget is going to be limited, I think, for the first year. Like for the first season.
I mean, nobody knows what the budget is. So take everything you see with a grain of salt.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited for it to come out. I'd like to see what they do with because they've said from the beginning, I think, that they're going to do East Blue, sort of start the show, give a background on the main characters. So I'm curious what they're going to do with Luffy's power.
They said 10. They ordered a 10 episode first season. I believe that was the concrete details that came out. So. Sounds about right. But I think the trickiest thing is probably just going to be like what sort of tone, like what feels comfortable in a live action setting, because I think it would be very easy to like if you try to lean 100% into the cartooniness, that it may just not work. Like with the live, it could get to the point where it's just like, well, why isn't this just a CG cartoon instead or something? So like they have to, similar to how like I think the Marvel movies, one of the reasons they were so successful is that they found the right like mix between like, okay, these are clearly actors on screen. This is a quote unquote live image, but it's still it doesn't feel like it's trying too hard to be a comic book. So I'm curious if
the thing that I think was the strongest thing about all of the Marvel movies, I think, is not necessarily writing or directing or even design. It's casting. You find the right people to be those characters. And if they have the right attitude, if they have the right feeling of One Piece characters, then the plot is already sort of there for you. And I don't know. Other things don't necessarily have to be great if you have the right people, I think. Because there's a lot of things that I don't necessarily care for about Marvel movies, but like they always seem to cast the right person. Like who else besides like Chris Hemsworth could have been Thor or Iron Man or like Doctor Strange or something like that. So like they always seem to find, and they're going to have to do, I think, more with less, because they're going to have to. There's casting challenges that's going to go on with this show, like finding people who are young but not like who are young enough but not too old, who aren't going to like age, look completely different after a couple of seasons, and there's going to be challenges there. So I think casting might be the most important thing.
Yeah. That's a big one.
Yeah, casting. I'm not terribly worried about the writing. I am very interested to see how One Piece aesthetic translates into live action. I was thinking about this all week, about how One Piece is like old timey piratey vibe, but people wear t-shirts and sneakers and like they have modern clothes and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think that's I think an attractive part about One Piece's style, to be honest. And I wonder how people are going to react to it.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to try and like get the visual aesthetic of like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Like that's the closest comparison I can think of in like mass culture.
Well, yeah, I guess, but that's the thing. Like, that's too like 100% pirate. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I know what you mean, but like they have a way to fit those modern aspects of it into that sort of, not like design, but like the way it's shot and the way it visually looks. I think like the way the boats look, the way the ocean looks, the way like cannons fire, and like the way that the seaside like Tortuga looks or something like that in Pirates of the Caribbean. I haven't seen any of those movies in 10 years probably, but I don't know. I remember liking them at the time.
I don't even know where to begin.
Go ahead.
I just know I think when people are when they're fine, when they're not worried, they're not so much outspoken. It's always the negative comments that are the most vocal. And so many people are like, and I've seen this online and I've heard it in person. Just people are already like just poo-pooing on this, thinking like, oh, it's gonna suck and all that. And as worried as I could be about this production, it's kind of like, I don't know. I'm trying to be optimistic, and I think because we've already had this discussion 2 years ago. I think like we've already we prepared ourselves for this, and I think we even said back then it's like we don't know how it's gonna turn out till it's out, and there's no benefit from being negative right out the gate. We kind of have to see how things go, but I think I'm fully aware that adapting the series into live action is going to be challenging. One Piece benefits from being a cartoon. It benefits from it could do whatever the hell it wants, and it works because it's within Oda's style, the way he has set up this world. And if I could just flash back to when One Piece first started started debuting in the Western world, and this is even akin to our conversation with EyePatchWolf. People thought like, oh, it was ugly looking. It wasn't good. It didn't look like anime. It was very cartoony, and people were turned off by it. And I'm just wondering how this is going to translate into live action. I kind of lost my point here. I am nervous, and I think it's a little disheartening to see so many people just right out the gate just say like, this is going to suck, and just comparing it to other live action adaptations, which there's only so many good ones. But if I could at least say one thing, even though it was not it wasn't a box office hit at all, it was a bit of a bomb, but if we could get anything close to the Wachowskis' Speed Racer,
I loved Speed Racer. I saw it for the first time this past year, and it fucking kicks ass.
It does. And I saw it in theaters, and I loved it then. I rewatched it a few years ago, and I still enjoy it. That's what we need.
I don't think that we're going to get a budget like that, but
No.
I do think that I think that if you can achieve a balance that is attractive and effective, the thing that is interesting about live action adaptations of anime is that the closer you actually get to what this is supposed to look like, the hokier it looks. Like Steve, you and I watched the Fullmetal Alchemist movie on Netflix last year.
Like minutes of it, right?
We watched most of it, I thought.
No, we did not get that far into it.
I guess
Just
not.
Felt like an eternity.
It kind of did. But the costumes basically just looked like excellent cosplay, but that looked really weird. Like
yeah,
they stood
CG
out
wigs
too much
on children. I didn't care for Winry's actress's acting because she was acting like someone on TikTok making a video saying like, I'm talking like an animated character. I'm like, oh yeah, 100 frames per second. No, that doesn't ever happen. Sorry, this is related to a TikTok rant I went on with a friend last night. But, she was way too like, I don't know. She was acting like people act in cosplay at an anime con, and I'm like, that's not believable. And I'm like, it's like, what is the tone of this movie? And yeah, you could get that wrong with One Piece for sure.
Yeah.
I think you need to nail the Luffy. I mean, you have to nail the Luffy's characterization of him being this hopeful, but also he can be serious. But he's also an idiot. But he's also very caring. But there's a lot of aspects of Luffy that you have to like. And I think his sort of spirit of adventure, I think, is the thing you have to nail. That's sort of hard. It's an easy thing to say, but it's hard to know what that actually means in practice.
Yeah, my honestly, you go.
I said, like, that's really hard. I think I don't have any evidence backing this up, but I feel like that gets really harder to convey in real life because Luffy, when he's in this story, he's a late teens boy, and I think that childlike wonder is really hard to get across in, I'd say, in that age range. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I just feel like I think if people saw like a younger like adult man acting like that, I think most people are like, oh, shut the hell up already, instead of just being like, wow, I could get behind this guy. I think that's one of the reasons why One Piece just benefits from being a cartoon. Half the time, at least for me, I'm not thinking about a character's age when I'm reading or watching the show, but I might think that more in live action. I don't know. Yeah, Alex, please.
The only worry that I have in terms of casting and just I think overall reception of the show is the fact that One Piece as a whole doesn't have any real romantic elements to it, and also since it's a shonen comic, it's mostly kind of a sausage fest. So I think female representation is definitely going to be a hot button issue for the show, as well as the other thing I mentioned a second ago, brain fart. You know what I mean. So I think that there are definitely going to be some changes afoot in terms of characters being represented. Like I could see a lot of the characters ending up as female just to mix it up a bit. And I don't want there to be romance in it, but if there had to be romance in it, like, where would you put it?
I wouldn't, but yeah, I just yeah. Like that's got to be like the first. I mean, Oda said that from the beginning. Everyone is in love with adventure. I mean, that's something that, like, I don't know. Do you really get One Piece if you're trying to put that in a live action adaptation?
No, I guess that's true. I'm just thinking from a producer trying to tick boxes point of view, but the fact that they're in love with adventure is also, like, that's a thing. And it's not just Luffy, but you have to get the overall feel of the series kind of out there in that first episode, right? Yeah. Like,
do you think they start with Luffy's like flashback, or do you think they start with him like in medias res after he started his adventure?
I don't know. I think I remember there was a reason that the original director decided to go with having the first episode, be the Alvida thing, just to get people sort of into it, like right
and
after
to
that.
have Nami in there too,
Uh-huh.
just so that you get the balance of characters rather than just Luffy.
Yeah, and I think that if they do something like that, that would be best, honestly. Or, I don't know, start off the series where the characters are all together already in the middle of a big battle, and then they do just I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. That kind of seems a little hokey, but I do think that flashbacks should be done, intermittently. And the guy who's show running it wrote. I think he's one of the producers of Lost and wrote some episodes of Lost, and I think that bodes well considering the meat and potatoes of One Piece is the flashbacks, right?
Yeah.
And the meat and potatoes of Lost, in my personal opinion, are the flashbacks. I think those were what kept me watching the show, actually.
So Stephen Maida is the guy's name. He's the showrunner.
Yeah. So I think that I think that it's in very capable hands, and as far as I think flashbacks should be interstitched or every once in a while rather than in huge chunks like they are in the series, just because of how it's a lot different to process a show than it is a comic.
Well, that's where like having a season based production cycle helps them a lot, because they can say, all right, what's going to be the overall storyline of this season, and how do we want, and they can take things and rearrange them and move them around to whatever works best for the show, which is kind of like the most important thing, I feel like, rather than being like, okay, well, first has to be Luffy's flashback, and the second one has to be Luffy meeting Kobe, and all of those things in the exact order that they originally came in. Like, that's not as important as making sure that the story itself is good as a show.
Now, where do you think they would leave off the first season at? You know how like Netflix they love cliffhangers, so. Like, you think they want to do it like where Nami betrays the crew, or they march on Arlong Park? Because I feel like they're not going to get all the way to Logtown. Like, there's no.
That's a lot of story to get through in 10 episodes.
Pardon my phrasing. I think if they ended on the march to Arlong Park, that's too much blue balls.
Yeah.
I think Nami betraying them, I think, is a good point. Like, say, introducing Sanji into the crew or joining. I think that's a good place to end.
But also, you get the big Zoro Mihawk bit, and Luffy gets to beat Don Krieg. That's good, sort of season ender.
Yeah, the five, sort of the regular, the humanoid characters before you start getting all the really wacky crew members in. That's a good core to focus on for the first season, I think.
Right, and it also later on introduces characters that are a lot more complicated to do with CG. You get Smoker,
exactly.
You get Reverse Mountain, you have Laboon. Like, it's just that's gonna be I don't know. That's gonna cost a lot of money, in my opinion. Anyway, any more final thoughts about the live action? Where you want to see it go? Anyone? I don't know. Any casting ideas you guys have?
I don't know who actors are.
Yeah, me either. So I can't really say. Everyone I can think of is far too old.
Like, what are we gonna be like, the DBZ Beckett magazine, and just like do something stupid like, and Vin Diesel will be Frieza.
Yeah, or I was gonna say Wizard Magazine did that too.
Yeah, I think half of those are like tongue in cheek, but if I could say something controversial, and it goes against my inner fiber these days, but there's a reason why when Shonen Jump came out here, like late 2002 and through 2003, there's a reason why One Piece wasn't my favorite from the get-go. It kind of felt, it felt a little tropey in some ways, I gotta say, like, because you thought like, Kobe's the annoying sidekick who can't do anything, but then he was taken out of the story like, oh, okay, and I was like, Usopp is the annoying sidekick who can't do anything. I'm not saying like, these characters should totally be rewritten, but I think they I think they have to be aware that like the Western taste is far different than those in Japan, and I just think they gotta tread carefully when adapting. Dare I say, change things up a little bit, maybe get things moving a little bit quicker, because I think the early parts of One Piece turn a lot of people off. It didn't turn me off. I still enjoyed the series, but I felt like I was enjoying other titles in Shonen Jump more. And it wasn't until the Baratie arc when I honestly think Oda really started like screwing with our expectations, like having Mihawk being introduced so early, and Nami's betrayal, that he really began to show he has a unique kind of storytelling. I think I wouldn't be surprised if there's just some changes early in the early parts of the One Piece story, which I kind of encourage. I feel like you gotta get some hooks to get these casual fans in. Dare I say it?
Yeah, and that's like the first thing they're going to be looking at is like how do we appeal to people? How do we grab them? And yeah, like I've been tweeting a few things because I've been slowly starting to reread the series from the start for our arc discussions later this year, and I highlighted some random thing, and I described it as season 1 writing, and I think that's like, you think of like season 1 of The Simpsons. It's sort of, it's like the show has its heart in the right place, but it's not, they haven't figured it out yet, and it's still kind of developing the the sharpness that will go on to define it. And that's very true of One Piece as well. Like it's very bouncy and very, kind of happy-go-lucky at the start, and he doesn't really develop his dramatic skills until a few arcs in, and then you really get hooked. So, yeah, that's definitely something that I would expect them to change right off the bat, or to have a different sort of tone to it, because it just does. It's not going to feel the same way in live action.
All right. Well, you guys want to take some questions?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, cool.
Let's do that.
Let's start off with some DSPs. Who's got
We
the
will-
Discord open?
We'll go to Discord, which I will read. And our first question comes from SBS Stella, who says, "Hey, OPP, I spent the last 7 days working really hard, and I've discovered that my devil fruit power isn't limited to only copying SBS questions. Turns out I can ask any ridiculous question as long as it pops one of the hosts. But Zach isn't here, so I guess it can't be about Seinfeld. I've got it. Ed, Steve, and Dork Prance Josh. The Straw Hats are all in the same block of G1 Climax. Who loses?" Okay, I'm glad you know what this means. Who loses?
Alex, is okay if you want to sit this one out.
That's fine. I know what you're talking about, but yeah.
Who loses? Who loses? What?
Who loses to Toru Yano?
Yes.
I don't care about who goes on to face Foxy in the finals, or how many points they all get. I only care about who loses to Toru Yano. P.S. Love the podcast as always, and I'm looking forward to this episode. I'm sure it'll be the strongest episode in a long time. Also, I love you, John, and I'm looking forward to 2021 and the end of the Queendom.
Oh, sorry, John couldn't be on for a piece together, but yes, losing to Yano. I think like
Hold on, I got it. Hold on. I've been more on Discord lately because of a project I'm getting involved in, but I just want to make sure I read this question so I know exactly what to say. But I guess the main question is just who loses the Yano, right? I'm trying to see who our participants are again.
Yeah, I think it would be Sanji. Like, he takes his fighting very seriously, but I think he's also more prone to, like, taking pratfalls and being ridiculous, and, like, you would get tricked by that. Like, because Yano wouldn't be able to trick Usopp or, like, Nami if they were, like, Nami wouldn't be in a... Well, like, sure, why not?
Usopp is the
Yeah, exactly. Like, I could see, like, I feel
Hats.
like Luffy would just sort of power through it. Like, there's nothing he could do to him. But, like, Zoro and Sanji would be my two main... Or maybe Frankie. Frankie would totally have over-the-top reactions and get tied in knots or something. Like, get taped to the barricade or, under a pile of chairs or something.
The first straw... this is out of all the Straw Hats? I guess
I thought
I'm
that's what he
trying to
said,
reread the question.
Yeah.
My, and it's not because he's always on my mind, but the first Straw Hat that came to mind was Sanji, because I think of so many, like Thriller Bark with the Hugya, with him getting
Right.
tripped by Absalom and smacking into the Sunny. It's immediately what I thought of, and it was, or like just Film Gold with Banana when he slipped on the banana peel, and I think Sanji would be perfect for this. For those that don't know what the hell we're talking about,
Toriano he's a comedy wrestler in a very serious promotion, but he also has like an amateur wrestling background, and he's always using like, he'll take off the turnbuckle pad and he'll take out a roll of athletic tape and tape somebody to the barricade outside so he'll get a count out, or like he'll tie somebody up in the ropes or stuff like that. He'll low blows.
It's like wrestling Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes,
yeah.
I think the only thing Toriano hasn't done is just like dress up and drag during a match and try to distract someone. If I could recommend if anyone's really curious to check out what this is like, I would say his match with
Moxley.
Moxley. I would say his match with Kenny Omega was that the 2017 G1?
It wasn't last year's. It was one of the two before that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it would have
because Moxley
that one
was last year in the 2019 G1 match. Yeah.
The one with Kenny Omega is really good just because within context, he came out to save a buddy who was getting beaten up, and then Kenny got beaten up, and Kenny's scheduled to face Yano immediately after. So when Yano comes out, the crowd goes nuts because they know what they're in for. It's like, oh no, Kenny's at a disadvantage, and Yano likes to cheat. And there's just, for a comedy match, there's so much intensity around, like, just in the atmosphere of this match. I think it was like one of my favorite matches of the entire tournament. But yeah, I think Sanji who's a great fighter, would find himself just slipping and succumbing to these tricks and losing a match with Yano.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
All right, cool. What's the next one, Steven?
Our other question on Discord is from our very own Joe, the Discord comptroller. And she says, I was re-listening to episode 602 that Matt J was on, which was the Laugh Tale chapter. And during the round-off, Zach joked that Matt brings with him monumental chapters. Zach famously has a habit of being absent during big chapters. So given their powers, if there was an episode with Matt but no Zach, could it potentially break One Piece?
That's that's not a bad idea.
The dangerous forces that we're playing with here.
Yeah.
Does that mean we'd get like a bad chapter of One Piece?
No, we get the best chapter of One Piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. Zach was bringing it down.
Someone should fire that guy.
Yeah. All right. That is it for Discord.
Cool. What's on Reddit, Alex?
All right. We have 2 questions on Reddit. This is from Coder876, who says, who's the spy? What would be the motivation for keeping Kaido in charge? Who would prefer Kaido? Well, I mean, we live in a country right now where, yeah, I don't think people prefer Kaido. I think it's more of a they have no choice kind of thing. We haven't seen Wano, we didn't see Wano while Odin was away. So, people might have had their spirits broken in that meantime.
Yeah, it's not so much that people are like, oh, well, it's like I do kind of. I was trying to think of a good Simpsons joke here. I can't, but it's not like people prefer Orochi and Kaido. It's just like, yeah, their spirits have been broken and they feel like there's nothing they can really do because Kaido is a big blue dragon. So it's just, the spirits are broken.
Mm-hmm.
I did wonder, I mean, this might be unlikely and it wouldn't necessarily it couldn't line up with the issue with the potential spy in the present day, but given that the old lady is just like wreaking all kinds of havoc with her powers, like she's been Orochi's MVP this arc, like you could imagine him explaining it as like, oh well, she's just she has all of their faces as well. and she's just turning into various vassals at inopportune times and getting all the information and so on and so forth. Like he could play it off that way as well, where it isn't actually anyone betraying him. It's just like that damn clone fruit.
Right. Yeah, I that's something we totally forgot to talk about in the manga recap, which maybe that's just the case. It's so thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, but on the other hand, if we're supposed to assume that like it's been the same person all along from 20 years till today, and we know that she must be dead because Bon Clay has the fruit now, so that wouldn't really work in the present day. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
Okay, what's the other Reddit question, Alex?
The conductor _ says, "Hey everyone, today's chapter got me thinking. They say in a one-on-one fight bet. They say in a one-on-one bet on Kaido. So why would Kaido go for such an Orochi-esque tactic to trick Odin out of fear of facing him 5 years ago? Also, Kaido meant to insult Odin, but comparing him to Roger and Whitebeard is a compliment, if you ask me. Thanks, everyone. Take care."
It's interesting. I think that Kaido would think that going one-on-one, if it's not necessarily the best idea. Like he saw Roger and Whitebeard having honor and stuff like that as being soft. Like Kaido's a winner. He wins. That's what he does. Doesn't necessarily have to be honorable. I don't think that matters to him so much. Winning matters.
Yeah, well, and like the whole speech was like, oh, you would have had all the samurai and all the Yakuza together, and that is not a one-on-one fight. That's like Kaido having to, with his underlings who are certainly not as powerful as he is, in a one-on-one fight, that's sure, but this is a group fight, so the laws of numerical strength and total strength still apply.
Damn numbers.
Yeah.
All right, was that it for Reddit?
That's right.
Okay, so it's time for Piece the Tweet. Yeah. Time for Piece the Tweet. First one comes from Sam Minton, who says, Stampede released today in the UK, and the Laugh Tale reveal worked really well, given it had already happened in the manga. Do you wish it had been that way around in the US as well? I guess seeing it in the manga before you get to see it in the theater.
Yeah, well, that's what I said during that manga recap. That I wish I had gotten that, shocker moment in the manga, rather than having it kind of come incidentally in this movie.
Right. And then be like, when you see it in the manga, like, oh, so I guess that was real. Like, not just
yeah,
movie
right.
thing. Yeah,
right.
I think it would be better, but I also don't know if it matters so much, but I think it would have probably worked a little bit better.
I think it matters to us as English speakers more than anything else.
Yeah.
I do wonder about no, never mind. Lost my thought. Next.
Okay. Our good friend Matt Cohen, Camel Toad on Twitter, says, who or what is the most iconic or identifiable image from One Piece for the world at large?
Ooh.
Man.
So we're talking about just like casual fans too, and
right? I think it might be
from the series.
It might be like not to go with the obvious, but it might be Luffy punching the Sea King, because that was in the intro, and it's very early on in the series, and I think it's sort of like this is where you see his powers really, I think, in action for the first time. Well, maybe in the manga, but yeah. So I don't know. I think that could be it. It could also be standing on the Tower of Justice or marching on Arlong Park. I think those are two other good options.
Any shot of him saying, "I'm going to be king of the pirates," I guess. It's really hard for me to, as someone who is not a casual, it's really hard for me to think about the other side, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like, maybe for fans, like the raising the X, arm salute, but like, I don't know if that plays outside of, One Piece fandom, if people know what that is.
I remember years ago, before I ever had a smartphone, when my friend used to send me like just images to use as wallpapers. And he found someone made like a wallpaper of, the end of Alabasta with the and then with like, and just like a quote from the series, it's like, wow, I found this, and this seems like really powerful. I don't know what's going on, but like that seems like some crazy shit. And I do, actually, someone I know too, a friend who is spending like their hiatus from work at the moment, I guess just catching up on One Piece, messaged me a picture of them watching the end of Alabasta on their TV, and he says, "Oh, hey, I get it now." So maybe the Alabasta, that might be one too.
Okay. Next
but
one.
That is also at the same time that's very like inside baseball. So
yeah,
I don't know. Like,
yeah,
Naruto has the Naruto run now, and Dragon Ball Z has like a million things. It's hard to determine with One Piece at the moment.
So, well, the X thing is interesting because Uniqlo's great and their shirts are mostly great, and the One Piece X shirt, I've worn that like a lot in front of people, and I've had to explain to them what the X means every single time. And they kind of get it once I explain it, but you know what I mean,
right?
Like it should be something on the surface, like very on the surface.
Yeah, I and having that tattooed on my arm, I always try my best to give the best pitch I can to it, but I feel like it's like you got to be there.
All right, next one comes from Bob Priestley, who says, "Can you guys do a Wizard magazine style casting for the One Piece live action?" So yeah, we've already told you we don't know who any actors are anymore, but I do like that you call it a Wizard magazine style casting. So I just dropped that in there.
Like Tom Holland as Luffy. It's apparently now like Tom Holland has to be in everything. Like, apparently he's an amazing voice actor. I want to know he's a good Peter Parker, but I don't think he's not the greatest actor I've ever seen. But I think that's a very Wizard magazine.
Make him do it in a British accent.
Yeah.
Even worse, do like Four Kids Shanks book.
Hello, Luffy.
Take me, please.
It's hard to tell what my voice is actually supposed to be. It's
Dick Van Dyke as Shanks.
Yes, very Dick Van Dyke.
It's a very what is his accent? Yeah. Hello, Mary Poppins. What's her face? Maya Hawke. I think would be a really great Nami.
I don't even know who that is. I'll have to look that up right now.
Is the daughter of Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
She's in the new season of Stranger Things, and she was really good.
And she's in. She has the cameo in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
She does.
She looks just like Uma Thurman.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, she does. But I think she could pull that off pretty easily, or depending on how what age they're trying to do, she could probably do a decent Robin too. I just feel like for this production, you should get unknowns for the most part. People who aren't who you can look on the screen and be like, hey, that's Colin Firth.
People you can sign to multi-year deals.
Yeah, that was back when I'd say 10 years ago when if there was a woman in something, people always said oh, well, obviously you cast Angelina Jolie.
Oh my God, yeah.
Even 10 years ago, she would have been in her 30s. That's just not. That's these characters are supposed to be late teenagers at the anyway. I don't know. You can't just disregard age when casting.
Another Wizard magazine thing would be Jim Carrey as Frankie.
There's a time when that would have been good, I think, but that's he's also in his 50s. I think.
What, in 1995?
Well, yeah.
So cast him as Brooke instead.
I think he'd be a decent Brooke, a decent Wizard magazine Brooke.
Okay, next one coming from Black Butler with 2 T's. Sorry that John has already left, but just wanted to know if Wano seems rushed to you guys, or if there is a sort of a long-term drop in quality, or if you think it's sort of inconsistent. One Piece has been inconsistent lately, I guess.
I mean,
if anything, it's not rushed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too long.
I
don't know if it's too long, but it's longer.
It's very expansive.
Yes.
Yeah. And as far as consistency goes, I think I attribute that to the fact that Wano is such a different setting, and the characters aren't named Luffy and Zoro. They're, Luffy, Taro, Zoro, Juro, and so on and so forth. I mentioned this earlier, how I liked Wano because it feels like a whole other manga. And and I don't know if that's the consistency issue you're thinking of, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Okay, let's move on. Johnny asks, do you think Kaido still wants to die? That part of his character has not been mentioned since his introduction. I think at this point he sees starting a world war as his best chance at it. I think that's why he's doing it.
Yeah, again, that's kind of goes back to I want to see him reconcile the initial introduction to Kaido that we got with the character in this arc, because it feels like we're not quite there yet. And maybe that'll happen once we actually get to fighting him. But yeah, it's very, very mysterious.
Okay. Clinton Simpson asks, you think Odin will be soft or hard-boiled? I feel like soft-boiled would be an insult to his manliness. I like the gag questions too. Okay. Peter
in his Odin in Odin, I think it's always hard-boiled.
Right. That makes sense. Peter Jensfeld asks, maybe I'm just overthinking this, but didn't you have to touch the person and store it in your memory with the clone fruit before you be able to transform to said person?
Yeah. That's why the spy is probably on Clay. So
yeah, probably. Yeah, we probably should have put that together. You have to touch the person, and she could be anybody. She could be in Odin's palace, really.
Right, but we also have a mole in the present day too, right? So
yeah, probably, yeah.
And if that's the clone fruit and Bon Clay has it, then she can't be alive. Unless, God, I was really worried that I'm sure that there's an age of, Bon Clay on the Viva card, but how much it would suck if Bon Clay ended up just being a stooge for Kaido this whole time.
No. Doesn't seem right. That's Russo booking there, Alex. That's just we don't do that here.
Yeah. All right, and let's see. Coming up next, Ivan Null MMA says, "Who stabbed Ashura?" He thinks that it's not King unless King decided to take off his black gloves right when he was attacking Ashura. It would be impractical. It could be his kink, but it seems very impractical to change clothing mid-battle. So, yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. No answers.
Unless that was a mistake on Oda's part, that's just going to get corrected in the volume.
There's, you can always account for maybe it was a mistake if it's just in the chapter, and we'll see what it looks like in the volume. Okay. Kendra asks, at Sniper of My Heart, says, maybe there is no spy, and Kaido's hybrid form is super tiny and good at eavesdropping. Bonus points if it is ugly cute.
like Mushu.
Mushu. Oh, I kind of see that now.
Mushu Kaido. Okay. Dark King Zoro, our very own Brighton Newton, asks, I'm definitely in the camp of Orochi and Kaido promised Odin they'd open Wano's borders and provide ships if he acted like a fool for 5 years. I'm also wondering if the poison arrows from last week aren't also connected to the fate of Brook's crew.
Oh, that's an interesting
Well,
tangent.
yeah, I don't know. We haven't really seen anyone else use poison-tipped arrows. I don't remember how that connects into Brook's story, so...
I definitely agree about the ships thing and the opening the border, since that's obviously Odin's number one goal for Wano. So it would make sense that ties into whatever they talked about.
It connects to Brook's story in that his entire crew is obliterated by poison arrows.
Okay. I thought they died of a disease.
No, that was Yorkie, but then we never saw the dead body, so Yorkie's probably alive somewhere. Right,
he left the ship to get treatment.
It's I got better. Where are you guys? Yeah. Could pick me up.
That's good. Yeah, good point. All right, last one comes from Wes the Fitting, who says, I've been asking for the world's strongest weeb, EyePatchWolf, to be on the podcast forever, and now it's finally happened, and I don't have a good piece to tweet. Well, thank you for writing in. It was a lot of fun having John on the show, and we'd love to have him back.
Good thing he's not here for you to be embarrassed in front of. So. No, I'm really happy we got him on the show. Like we said at the beginning, it was a long time coming.
Very highly requested.
Did you see him at MagFest this year?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, you guys didn't get to meet him.
And I got him prepared.
Right.
Yeah, I got him prepared for the podcast. We were talking about this upcoming appearance, and yeah, it was awesome. He fits right in, and I think for those that aren't familiar with him, he has a couple One Piece videos on his channel. We didn't get the chance to really plug. One of them was why you should read One Piece, and the other, and I think the original one was the appeal of One Piece. You should definitely look him up. I mean, you should check out his channel in general. He just does great editorial videos about just like anime and video games. And I think one of the good things I like about him is, like, even though he does have some videos talking about like the decline in popularity of series like Naruto and Bleach, it's a very positive channel, and you get way more out of watching a video about someone talking about why they like something so much instead of someone just ragging about a show they don't like. So I highly recommend his videos.
All right, cool. You guys want to round off the show?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
This has been the One Piece Podcast, episode 606 for the week of Sunday, February 2nd, 2020. On this episode, we had some Piece Together, a Chapter 970 manga recap. We also got to do our little bit of an interview with EyePatchWolf. I hope he has fun at One Piece Stampede, and we'd love to have him back on, maybe to talk about that afterwards. But so, for the One Piece Podcast this week, we had Steven. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, of course. You can follow me on Twitter at Translatosaurus. And actually, in fact, in addition to reading my usual work on One Piece and Samurai 8 on shonenjump.biz.com or mangaplus.shueisha.co.jp, as well in the, I guess, I'm not sure exactly when this is going to come out, but let's say within 24 hours of the release of this episode, there should be an 87-page Death Note one-shot. They took time off from Platinum End, which is the same author duo, and they did a Death Note one-shot that is described as a Death Note for the modern age or the modern day, and I feel like it definitely lives up to that. It was a very entertaining story. 87 pages will fly by in a blink. So yeah, if you're a fan of Death Note, you should definitely check that out. I had a lot of fun working on it.
This is what was keeping you so busy last week.
Yeah, I was it was like the cherry on top that just like broke my back, but I got through it all.
All right, cool. Alex, where can the people contact you?
Well, you can always find me on Twitter at @dude!! You can check out my shitpost account, Weeb Simpsons. And you can also listen to me on Toho Yaro every month with Joey and Scott. Our latest episode should be dropping sometime this week. It is the film Moon and Cherry, a very sex-positive film. And that's it for me.
Right on. And Steve.
Hey, you could follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Steve Yurko is my name and the username. Listen to me on other podcasts. Listen to me on The Deep End with Matt J. Listen to me on Toon Sweet with Doctor. And I'll also plug Duncanville is a new animated series premiering on Fox on February 16th. And I boarded on that show, so you should check it out. Or check it out on Hulu when you get the chance. I'm pretty sure it'll drop on there as well. So, yeah.
Right on. Thank you, Steve. And so I am Edward E. One Piece on Twitter. You can also check out the trailers count, Weeb Trailers. Podcasts can be found at onepiecepodcast.com, twitter.com, youtube.com, and facebook.com/onepiecepodcast. onepiecepodcast@gmail.com is our email address. One Piece Podcast is the Skype tag. And let's see, you can subscribe on SoundCloud. Oh, please subscribe on Patreon. Please, there's always good extras going up there. And let's see, you can subscribe on SoundCloud, subscribe on Spotify, subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, or call us on our phone number. That's 347-497-MAJI.
Maji.
Yeah. That's 347-497-6254. Call anytime.
Anytime.
All right. With your questions, your comments, your theories, and yeah, that's just about it for this week. But Steve, I heard you had some trivia for us.
Oh no, that was actually a joke.
Ah, okay. Well,
Here's no, it was a good joke. I'm like, yeah, who knows the chapter with the brief Zeph flashback in Whole Cake Island? But
we'll take the questions off the air.
Who played the Joker?
Cesar Romero. Anyway,
Partial credit.
So for the One Piece podcast this week, my name is Ed.
My name is Paper Steve.
And my name is Real Person. And Alex.
All right, so thank you for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
So long.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Why? Please come back. I'm so lonely.